Hello and welcome to the Damian Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Show. I'm Ben Weinrib.
And I'm Allison Mast.
And you may look differently on that last clip than Vanderbilt's campus actually is. It is a frozen tundra out here, but we are here to deliver you a lot of news, as always, on VU Sports Wired. We're going to start you off with an update with the basketball team that is currently playing Florida right now, then move on to the baseball season, which just started up this weekend, before we move on to our favorite recurring segment, Vanderbilt Star of the Week, and then our favorite news segment, Hazing and Athletics, before wrapping up the show with lacrosse, golf doing good, and our favorite recurring segment, Tweet of the Week. Now, since we last saw you, Vanderbilt played 2 games, the first one of which was against Tennessee in a really unfortunate loss. Vanderbilt was up 5 points with 15 seconds left in the game, 4 points with 9 seconds left in the game, and managed to absolutely blow it, shooting 17 from 30 from the free throws. This was a really, really ugly game. We've seen free throws, especially from Damian Jones, rear their ugly head, and it really, really came to hurt them in this game.
Yeah, you know, it's something that has plagued us in seasons past, particularly last season. It's not a good thing when you're losing games at the stripe, that's for sure. And down the stretch, they just couldn't convert at the line, and it really came back to bite them because, you know, they had the game in the bag and just totally lost control in overtime.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly down the stretch. They shot 4 for 8 from the free throw line in the last minute, and it really killed them at the end when they were up 3 points and decided to foul with 6 seconds left, thinking, hey, maybe they'll make one of 2, and even if so, we'll make both from the line. Well, Tennessee made both from the free throw line, and then Wade Baldwin, our producer, Max Herz's favorite player on the team, missed his first one, which allowed them to shoot a game-tying jumper to send it into overtime, and of course they hit a 3 right away in overtime, and it just sort of unraveled from there, and Vanderbilt lost again. Now, Vanderbilt was able to take advantage of Tennessee's small size. We saw Damian and Siakam combine for 30 points that game, but really they just couldn't hold it together at the end. That's been a recurring theme all season with them, just blowing leads, whether it's the LSU game, playing in Mississippi State. It's just really a sign of a young team.
Yeah, but particularly painful against Tennessee. You know, it's great to be a Tennessee Bowl chance started up, and it was very good to see them, though, bounce back after that and win on the road for their first SEC road win. Not a tough thing to do after you lose to Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. They were still able to draw a lot of fouls. They got 35 free throw shots off against Alabama and made 28 of them, which is more than enough considering how this team's played before. We saw Damian absolutely went off for 20 points. And hey, Carter Josephs even made it on for 8 minutes. So that's how you know it's a sign of a good game, when you know the people of the dregs of the bench are making it on to the court.
Dregs on the bench, that's really, really harsh. You know, Carter Josephs has been playing well these past 2-3 games, though, playing in the stead of Shelton Mitchell, who has been suffering from a concussion. It's great to see him come in and contribute. You know, we thought he was going to be a bigger part of this team in the beginning of the season, but despite being benched for the majority of it, he's really just come out and played well despite all that.
Yeah, absolutely. In other news from the basketball team, Damian Jones was actually named to the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award watch list. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this relatively new award, it's for top centers around the league, and unfortunately he's going to be among some pretty big company with Jahlil Okafor from Duke, Frank Kaminsky from Wisconsin. Even from the SEC, we've got Arkansas's Bobby Portis and Kentucky's Willie Cauley-Stein. But still, it's really a huge honor for him to be named to this list with many other really talented players.
Yeah, especially as a sophomore.
No, absolutely. And we're not going to talk too much about Florida because they're currently playing right now. But with Vanderbilt's going to be without Jeff Roberson because of a concussion, and Florida's actually without their 2 leading scorers, Dorian Finney-Smith and Michael Frazier II. So really a game Vanderbilt has to win to move up in the SEC standings. Right now they're at 11th. If they can get to the top 10, they'll get a first-round bye in the SEC tournament. So really a big game ahead of them.
And the season sweep of Florida would make a big statement for this young team.
No, absolutely. Now, a season sweep would be nice against Florida, but unfortunately Vanderbilt baseball was not able to get that season sweep to open the year against Santa Clara. They won their first game in a shutout 4-0 before splitting the doubleheader on Saturday 7-6 in a loss, and then a 6-5 win at the end. There was some sloppy play at times, especially from the pitchers. We saw Tyler Ferguson was could only last 2 innings. He walked a ton of guys, 16 strikes to only 30 balls, 5 walks, 3 wild pitches. He was all over the place. And while we thought there was going to be a lot of depth at pitching to start the year, this might be an issue if he can't start and Walker Buehler's still hurt.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions. If he's not able to fill that Sunday role, then who's going to step up? You know, Pfeiffer was strong in relief for Fulmer. So, you know, do you convert him into a starter? It's a role that he's had before, or do you leave him in the midweek? There's a lot of pieces that you can move around.
Yeah,
here.
Kilichowski wasn't especially impressive either in his Saturday start. Got pulled early. Luckily, they had they have plenty of arms to fill in the gap, but you'd like to solidify that rotation among the other sort of wild pitchers. Hayden Stone had a chance to get a save in that first game, ended up with a couple wild pitches and a suicide squeeze that gave him his first loss of the year and an 18 ERA after he had one hovering around 1.5 last year. So obviously, it's kind of cold to start the year, and it may be hard to get a grip on that slider or whatever it may be, but kind of sad for a guy that we were hoping to have a huge role out of the bullpen.
Absolutely, and maybe, you know, he will be kind of like a mid-relief guy. Maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable in that closer role. Maybe that was the issue, but who knows?
Yeah, so to continue our dark cloud over this weekend, we had a 3-error inning. We have, in the 3rd inning of Game 3, a lot of sloppy play. Now, of course, it's still, like we say, really, really cold. It's not baseball weather yet. There's a reason spring training's in Florida and Arizona for Major League Baseball, but you have to imagine this doesn't have to continue. And, of course, they were really good players this weekend. We saw Dansby Swanson's hitting .429 on the season. We saw a triple out of him, triple out of Rhett, a homer from Rhett, too. So there's still plenty of good news. This is really just nitpicking on a team that's going to do very, very well this year.
Exactly, and one of those kind of bright moments during the weekend was the collegiate debut of Jordan Sheffield, who was just really strong out of the bullpen. He came in at the end of Game 3 with it tied, and the Commodores ended up getting the win in the 10th inning. So really great to see him out there after he had to sit out for a year recovering from Tommy John.
Yeah, absolutely. Up to 96 in the game. Of course, he has that killer changeup also with 3 strikeouts there too, although with a couple walks. But he was really impressive for his first game. And because of that, he is going to be our new Star of the Week. Let's send it over to the interview with Max.
It's time for our Vanderbilt Star of the Week. And with Vanderbilt baseball getting started over the weekend, there was no doubt that our Star of the Week was going to be from the Commodore baseball team. A lot of guys stood out in the opening series win against Santa Clara, but our choice for Vanderbilt Star of the Week is redshirt freshman pitcher Jordan Sheffield. Jordan, thanks so much for coming in the studio after a big weekend for you. College debut, 3 2/3 scoreless, and a W to go with it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
And it was your first game back after Tommy John surgery, which you had in your senior year of high school. It was your first collegiate outing. Now that your recovery is really complete, getting back into game action, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of that recovery process?
Well, the most challenging part was just having to do exactly what was told, you know, with the mentality of like coming in and wanting to play, like pitch or play, you know, long toss with the guys or whatever. But that was the hardest part, just knowing that you couldn't throw as hard as you want to or as much as you want to. You have to stick to the plan.
22 months without being able to pitch in game action for you, and you had to wait a couple more days as you didn't get in until Game 3 of this opening series against Santa Clara. Knowing that you were going to get into the series, was it tough just to have to wait through the first 2 games and be the last guy out of the bullpen for the entire weekend?
Well, it's always tough, but I mean, it's something we practiced in practice is like coming in late innings. So I kind of like expected, like me, Ben Bowden, and Hayden Stone are like 3 of the guys that 5th inning on, you just be ready, just stay moving, get loose, and just, you know, anything can come up where they can put any one of us in.
You came in a tough spot, pitched out of a jam, top of the 7th, tie game, runners on the corners, 1 out, and you got out of it unscathed, and then you went on to pitch 3 more scoreless innings on top of that. When you come in expected to execute some jam work, do you know that you're going to be pitching more innings on top of that?
Well, you don't know. You just kind of like, you just go. Like, as far as the game lets you, or as long as you're feeling well and as long as the coach has no other plans behind you, you just do what's best for the team. And I guess at that point, it was best. So.
Some of the other hurlers on this team who have a year or two of college experience under their belt struggled to pitch in the cold control-wise. Your control was strong, and so was your velocity. How did you keep those two things in top game shape despite the freezing temperatures?
Well, those are only, like Coach Corbin says, those are conditions. You just learn to control what you can control, basically, and that's something the weather it's out of anyone's reach. So you just learn to adapt as quickly as possible and just do your best. So.
Your fastball a consistent 90 plus in your first college outing, and you reached 96 at one point. How would you grade your secondary pitches, though, looking beyond that fastball through one college outing?
What's something I'm definitely working on right now. It's kind of a curveball and a changeup, which is definitely not as great command as my fastball, but it's something I'm working on every day. So hopefully I'll get better.
Certainly mix them in and mix them well, and Vanderbilt baseball fans certainly knew your name already and continue to learn more about you and your pitching style. One thing, when you hear the name Sheffield, you think Gary Sheffield, and one of my favorite things about Gary Sheffield was that he had a fan group in Atlanta called Chef's Chefs. It was fans in the upper deck wearing chef hats, dancing around every time he got on base. Could you see a new chapter of Chef's Chefs emerging on Vanderbilt's campus?
I mean, whatever happens, happens.
I'd be in favor of it, that's for sure. And your brother Justice was planning to come to Vanderbilt, ended up signing a pro contract with Cleveland out of the MLB draft. Has there been any chirping between you guys about whether the pro or the college route is better now that you've gotten into a college game?
Yeah, always. I mean, there's something we're always, chirping back and forth, but it's just brotherly love, so basically it.
No hard feelings in the Sheffield family. Some good pitching in the future of Jordan Sheffield. Through one college outing, still a 0 ERA. Looking forward to seeing you pitch more in the future. And for now, you can say that you're Vanderbilt's Star of the Week. Thanks for coming by.
Appreciate it.
Back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you guys. Now behind the desk with me, we have Amanda Marco Tullio, and we are ready to introduce our newest favorite segment, which is hazing in sports at Vanderbilt. Now, of course, here at Vanderbilt, we do not condone under any circumstances hazing. However, through sources, we have heard various other stories about stuff happening around campus, and the reason we bring this up is the recent Vandy grad Festus Ezeli was part of a hazing incident where he went to a team dinner, and the way the Golden State Warriors end up paying for their dinner is they all put their credit cards in a hat after they've eaten, and they have the waiter pull out credit cards until one's left, and that person pays. And Festus obviously is making plenty of money at $1.1 million, but
Doing pretty good.
NBA players eat a lot of food, and not too cheap food either. So he has been the butt of this joke for a while, and we've heard of other different hazing incidents around campus.
Yes, what our viewers may not know is that Matthew Fisher Davis is actually forced to put hair gel in Shelby Motes' hair, and that's where he gets his secret for his hair.
Man, I can't imagine which would be worse, though, putting gel in his hair or having to fix Stallings' hair in some aspect. I don't think either of those would be very fun, although Stallings would certainly take less time, so that would be probably why Shelby's is worse punishment.
Yes, and probably be a little less picky than Shelby. I could see him putting a lot of pressure on Fisher Davis.
Yeah. The other one we heard was backup quarterback Sean Stankovic has to help Patton study for the MCAT. Patton, of course, is going to be headed to medical school sooner or later, but that's got to be tough. That's a lot of pressure.
Poor Sean, making all those flashcards and pulling them out whenever Patton needs them. He's really demanding. He's got to be on his game at all times.
Absolutely.
Patton's a big studier, so. And then another story we've heard from sources say that freshman on the basketball team, Rachel Bell, actually has to be the interpreter for twins Audrey and Callie Cron-Goudreau. So I can't imagine what that must be like.
It must be tough.
Interpreting for the rest of the team.
I've gotten the pleasure of talking to the two of those, and I have to say, although they are taller than me, it was shocking how much bigger their hands were than mine. And it was quite emasculating, and it was one of the stranger moments I've had in interview history. Anyways, in other news, women's lacrosse is actually off to a very good start for this season. They beat Kennesaw 24-1 and then Liberty 20-10, which is awesome, obviously. And what's really cool also is that Mallory Schonk was named Big East Attacker of the Week. She got 7 goals and 7 assists on the season, plus about 5 or 8 ground balls and caused 4 turnovers. This is big news. Probably her inspiration for this was back when she and I took public speaking last fall. Had some inspirational stuff to say. Lasted a year and a half later.
And now it's just coming out.
Oh, absolutely.
No, we love to see this from the women's lacrosse team. Typically, they have pretty shaky seasons, lots of up and downs. We've never really seen them be too consistent, but this is the first time they've come out and gone 2-0 since 2008, so very promising for them. Good performances all around, not just from Mallory Shonk. We had Kelly Chandler and Alexa Kanowski both scoring 5 goals each, and just in general, these games, they were blowing out the other teams. It wasn't like a close game. These were huge wins for them. So this is great to see. This is a lot of momentum coming into the season.
Absolutely.
So we've also seen that the men's golf team is doing very well. They usually do pretty well anyway, but great to see them. They are actually ranked 5th right now in the nation after finishing 6th at the SunTrust Gator Invitational. Not exactly sure how that worked out, but we're not going to complain about it. The good performances all around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We saw Hunter Stewart was 5 under for the tournament. He finished 8th overall. And Matthias Schwab played for the first time since the spring, which is another really good development since he was so promising, at least his freshman year. In other news for Vandy graduates, Brant Snedeker wins at Pebble Beach, which is actually his first win since 2013. He is now up to 31st in the entire universe of golf, the entire solar system of golf. He is number 31. And yeah. And then now for our favorite recurring segment, of course, we have Tweet of the Week, this time brought to you by Brian Reynolds.
So here we see Brian Reynolds with the very deep words, global warming though. But we also have a video of the baseball team shoveling off the field. We've had some crazy weather in Nashville these past few days, and they literally had to shovel off. That is warm water they're pouring on the ice there, shoveling it off because it was so frozen over. But I mean, when coach says to play, they got to play.
No, absolutely.
Put the players to work.
About 1 inch of snow around Nashville. I can't possibly, it was mind-blowing. Can you imagine that much snow at once?
I can, but I know Ben has trouble imagining it. Being from
No.
New Jersey, this was not the worst, but Nashville is having trouble dealing with it, so.
We've enjoyed the days off.
We've
There's
had some nice days
no
off.
worries. And, well, that'll do it for us here at the show. Hopefully you're not watching us and you're watching Vanderbilt take on the Gators, but go Doors, and we'll see you guys next week.